Hey, I'm Joe, and in today's episode of Obscure Pop Culture History, we're talking about the infamous wrestling sleaze thread.
101 of the dirtiest now. Is there any truth to these, or we'll find out?
I have no idea.
All right, well, let's see.
Somebody said
This was wrestling's dirty laundry, aired out in public. 450 plus rumors, but were any of them true? Who created this thread, and why is this thread so important? Well, the man behind this will shock you. This thread also happens to be the origins of the rumor that Stephanie McMahon slept with the Macho Man Randy Savage while she was still underage. And this was the reason that at the time, Randy Savage was blackballed from the WWE. But out of the 450 rumors posted in this thread, how many of these were actually true? Warning, be prepared to never look at the Rock and Roll Express the same way.
R&R Express walking on Jimmy Valiant, laying on the floor, jerking off under a glass table that a hooker is shitting on. Ricky throws up and leaves while Robert stays to watch. That sounds entirely plausible.
I can't see Ricky leaving.
Yeah, it's true too.
Next time they make that appearance on like a Legends Night of AEW, you're gonna think of this story. So let's start with the Randy Savage rumor. Did he really sleep with Stephanie McMahon?
When I first heard the story, I didn't believe it because I just thought it was some story. But then, you know, and I mean, even when people who are very high up in that company, after they left the company, would tell me that story, I still didn't believe it. But you know, after a certain number of years, when it's just, you know, ideas are brought up for Randy Savage and the reaction, there's something real bad. Because let's face it, I mean, I couldn't count the number of times Vince said he would never do business with Hulk Hogan, and he always does.
Yeah. The Stephanie McMahon and Randy Savage rumor wasn't the only time Randy Savage was brought up in the thread. Yeah, apparently he was so out of his mind one night that he was about to fight police dogs. Our first discrepancy in the Stephanie McMahon sleeping with Randy Savage story is, was she 14 or was she 18? The time frame has her at 18, but the story keeps putting her at 14. Forum users that believe the rumor pointed out that, boy, Macho Man doesn't seem to be in any of the product that they put out. He doesn't seem to be in any tributes, doesn't have anything on the website.
Yeah, the Macho Man's name has never been mentioned, but you know what? I just, if that's true, maybe that's why he never went back there.
Well, other users point out that, well, he's not used that often. He was in a tribute video. He was shown here. He made an interview with WWF magazine at the time. The posters who were less conspiratorial pointed out that not only did Vince McMahon wish him good luck and goodbye on, he wasn't going to let Macho wrestle. Macho wanted to continue his career.
The timeline doesn't work to me, and also I never heard anybody when I was up there. It's just in the past few years that this has popped up. I think it's one of those, I'd love to have something on it.
And then when he went to WCW, he also took their major sponsor of Slim Jim with him.
Want to light up your life? Yeah! Have those Slim Jim! Turn to the spice!
Effectively taking away a big sponsor for the WWF. And that's messing with McMahon's money. He's all about the money, as you know.
It's all about the money. It's all about the money.
I don't know. I can't wave off this rumor as being fake. You can find his ex-girlfriend and friends of his not exactly denying the rumor.
He told me one day when we were on ecstasy on the beach, I think he didn't mean to tell me that, and then the next morning he goes, did I tell you anything last night on the beach? I'm like, you sure did. He knew exactly what he said, and he was like, shit, you know what I mean? Because it was kind of like the truth drug. Yeah. Once he got on that, he just started telling me everything. So it is what it is, and, you know, she knows, he knows what it all was.
Macho Man on ecstasy? What would that sound like?
Yeah, the moon, the stars, Venus, Pluto, Saturn, yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's kind of what I pictured it sounding like. One rumor was that Stephanie didn't sleep with Macho Man. Stephanie slept with Bruce Pritchard. I'm glad that rumor didn't take off. Speaking of Bruce Pritchard, he's on record as saying that he almost brought Macho Man back in 1996. And in 2003, Macho Man interviewed with the WWF magazine. So, was he really blackballed, or did they just not have a spot for him anymore? You know who really was corrupting Stephanie? And also corrupting Shane McMahon? It was that goddamn Raven. You heard me. Shane McMahon was partying all night with Raven, and then would pass out on his couch.
What a mark.
I actually became a legitimate member of the Mean Street Posse in real life because the Mean Street Posse were really Shane's best friends.
This thread was a product of its time, so please do not get that upset about anything that was posted from anyone who posted it, okay? Let's start off with the sexual stuff. Have you ever wondered how Ric Flair prefers his woman? Or how he spent his free time in the 80s? Or that Sandman was paid with a bag full of porno DVDs? And this list, it told you who slept with who. And I'm not talking Jim Neidhart.
Taka fucked Sonny while Candido watched. Well, Candido probably didn't watch. Poor Chris.
That's why Chyna really left TNA. And that's how Jackie Gato won her season of WWF Tough Enough. Did you know that's how Dawn Marie was able to acquire drugs? Or Disco Inferno's way of getting camera ready? But hey, who isn't going to take a shot at this? Much respect, Disco Inferno. Much respect. And it's not a good sleaze thread unless we talk about the Clique. And apparently, they tag teamed Lex Luger's girlfriend while Just Incredible played Lookout. And boy, were there a lot of rumors about Lita. Not only was she super easy, but somebody once caught her making out backstage with Luna Vachon. Then we got the man whores, like CM Punk cheating all over the place and making Daphne want to leave the wrestling business.
That was boring. You're not funny and nobody likes you.
We have Hoovy.
Who the hell is Hoovy?
That's right, the Juice. Well, he banged a prostitute while watching his own match, and Norman Smiley provided running commentary. I wonder if Hoovy did the big wiggle, or is that just something that Norman Smiley is allowed to do? Then we have the ultimate ladies' man. You guessed it, El Dandy. El Dandy? Really?
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Huh? I mean, dude is cold-blooded if this rumor's true.
You know, you could say what you want.
Oh, this Tony Atlas one? That's 100% true. Everybody knows it. Open secret. Come on. There's this rumor about Stephanie McMahon using a strap-on on Stone Cold and Triple H and Chyna. I knew immediately from reading that thread that somebody was misremembering her time on the Howard Stern show.
Did you use a strap-on on Stone Cold Steve Austin?
I don't know what Steve's into off camera,
Right.
but certainly we did not use a strap-on.
You never got into bed with him and used a strap-on?
I didn't.
Since this thread was put out around the same time that Perez Hilton was big online, you gotta out people.
The following people are gay.
Outing people who aren't ready isn't the coolest thing to do. But, you know, it was done back then. We can't ignore history. Some rumors were based on how certain wrestlers got their start. Buff Bagwell got tagged with this rumor, but others deny that being true.
Ronnie P. Gossett has done a lot of things in his career. Buff, no, not involved in that.
No, but that rumor goes back a long way. But that's not, I don't think so.
But Burt Prentice is, he's well known with what he does.
Do you think that Ultimate Warrior was a hateful bigot? Well, what if I told you he ran a gay prostitution ring? And then it just becomes a who's who of outing people. Moolah and May. Anyone who ever wrestled for Omega, except for Jeff Hardy, according to this poster. And then some wrestlers have to scrape by making wrestling videos that were sold for gay men. This is a real thing, I've had people tell me about it, and they have certain fetishes. Like they want to see the guy keep taking snapmares, or be trapped in a leg scissors for a long amount of time.
Remember when David Flair quit IWA Puerto Rico due to unfit living conditions? No. And everybody ragged on him when they found out IWA had just put him up in a nice house? Woo! Well, that nice
That's
house.
my boy. Woo!
Well, that nice house belonged to Victor Quinones, or as this was spelled, Victor Quiones.
Quiones.
I shouldn't have to say to anyone, but I will. David was sleeping one night as was woken up by Quiones standing over him about to blow a load on his face. David quit the next day.
Woo! That's my boy.
Oh, and that Molly Holly, she's not as innocent as you've been led to believe. And Kimberly Page? Well, since she looked over the Nitro Girls, she must have been a closeted lesbian. And this guy? He claims to have hooked up with Steven Richards. He'll show you. You'll see.
I'll show you. You'll see.
Then we have the open secret of Patterson and the Brooklyn Brawler being in a relationship.
Steve Lombardi is/was Pat Patterson's secret lover. That's another rumor here.
I don't know. That's rumors.
Rumors.
Steve Lombardi, I heard the stories too. I know as much as anybody else, but I don't know.
I knew that from the beginning that he had been there for many, many years. And I knew he could stay long as he wanted to because of Pat Patterson.
But Pat was also in one with Jacques Rougeau.
I'm the mountain. I'm handsome, I'm brave, I'm strong.
S.A. Rios and Enigma were lovers. And Antonia Pena turned half of the AAA locker room gay. And Brutus Beefcake? Well, he only wants black men, and he'll wrestle for blow. Then there's the famous rumor that Bradshaw raped Brian Christopher in the shower. Though other people speculate that it wasn't Brian Christopher, it was Brian Kendrick. These stories are an intriguing read, but you kinda have to suspend your disbelief. How many of these stories were true? Would Texas Tornado really just murder a cat for no reason? Or do you really think Vince McMahon went so gung-ho merchandising his product that he wanted to sell cock rings? Was TNA really so classless that they were going to have a Macho and Luger feud over the real-life death of Miss Elizabeth? Or the rumor that I really wanted to believe, Hugh Morris beating up Matthew Lesko. Do you not remember Matthew Lesko? Did you never get free money from the government?
I'm Matthew Lesko, and you probably see me on Oprah, Larry King, or Letterman talking about government money programs. Well, my new book shows you 15,000 programs you could use to change your life.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing this rumor happened, but my life is a little better thinking that he may have socked one of the guys who would just advertise his product all over WCW.
Do you know that Nike shoes, Apple Computer, and even H. Ross Perot have used government money programs to help make their millions, and you can too?
Life is just funnier when you believe a good Virgil story.
I go in the shower room one night, he's got this thing all soaked up, and he's got two hands that's going around and around like a whirlybird.
I was stretching this fucking long piece of meat.
Right. And I said, well, you might as well play with yourself. You can't do anything else with it.
Yeah, it's too big. He said, you're going to stab somebody's colon.
Or that Psycho Sid Vicious shoved a squirrel down his pants and had disastrous results. Of course it was the disastrous results. What would be a good result from shoving a squirrel down your pants?
But you know and I know that you're only half the man that I am.
But then I'm a little less amused by the idea that Ahmed Johnson pimped out underage girls. Plus, I think they got him confused with another African-American wrestler of the time period, Hardbody Harrison, who actually was arrested for pimping out girls. And wrestlers, they're not just sexual deviants, they're also extremely gross, according to this list. Do you really want to picture the Taskmaster at a nudist colony? And poop! Oh god, it was like every other story was about poop. Or somebody shitting somewhere. It could be in retaliation, as in the case of Jerry Lawler's crown.
Lawler left his crown in the dressing room to do the Rumble, so the Clique decided to shit in his crown. But apparently this wasn't like a couple of turds in the crown. They apparently filled King's precious crown to the brim with a nice hearty Clique shit.
Which may have been done by multiple suspects.
Who was shitting in the crown? Was it the Nasty Boys?
No, I don't think they were there.
No.
They weren't there. Kurt Hennig supposedly was one of those who shit in Lawler's crown.
But not Kurt Hennig.
No, but I think he did shit in Chief Jay Strongbow's son.
The breakdancer kid?
Yeah, he did shit in his bag.
Mr. Perfect would never shit in Jerry Lawler's crown. Shit in Chief Jay Strongbow's son's bag? Yes. Poop under a WCW ring? Yes. Razor Ramon? Well, he did it in Sonny's lunch. Manny Fernandez? Well, he does it in Stetson hats. Roddy Piper? He does it in brown bags. Andre did it in a tub. And Hugh Morris? Well, he did it on Buff Bagwell's face. And if you don't like poop stories, what about peeing? Because Butch Reed will do it on carpets and furniture at the motel. And Shawn Michaels, he'll do it in a girl's mouth.
Shawn Michaels supposedly invited 3 hot girls back to his room, told them all to get naked, get on their knees. He whips out his ding-dong, and the girls figure it's going to be a suck fest, but instead he proceeds to take a piss in each of their mouths.
Marty Jannetty would do that.
Oh yeah, in a heartbeat.
They were really messed up back then, and it has to be because they were coked out of their mind.
And you just gave some advice to kids to stay away from drugs.
Let me tell you something right now. It's like putting poison in your body. Don't do it.
And if they weren't on drugs, well, they were trading sex for drugs. While looking through the nearly 500 rumors, throwing in famous wrestling fights makes our other rumors look a little bit more credible. And with the sheer amount of podcast and shoot interviews out there today, a lot of these fights have actually been confirmed. So now it makes our other rumors look a little bit more credible, right? Because all these fights are real. Is this other stuff true? Because Molly Holly totally knocked out China, right? Kerry Von Erich totally lost his foot trying to get a cheeseburger, right? Roddy Piper had his own manservant, right? Well, actually, in the next post, a forum member corrects that rumor, and then another member adds a little bit more to the story. Alexis Lurie had nude images. Yes, before we knew her as Mickie James, this rumor was already around. And then years later, you'd find out that, well, somebody backstage at WWE found these pictures and put them up for the whole backstage area to see.
Give it to me! Give me what I want!
You also have the stories that became Dark Side of the Ring material. Davey Boy Smith getting a fake steroid shot. Randy Savage locking Liz away. Jimmy Snuka potentially being a murderer. And there were other rumors that got confirmed through shoot interviews or documentaries. Like the Ken Patera got arrested for vandalizing a McDonald's. Or the Iron Sheik was offered money to break Hulk Hogan's leg.
Mr. Vince, you're so good to the Sheik. You take care, you make a champion. I beat Jabroni Bob Backlund. I know break his neck. I know break Hulk Hogan's leg.
And do you remember when DX was at ringside? Well, the Hart Foundation brawled with the Nation of Domination, and all DX wanted to do was eat a banana? Well, there was a reason they ate a banana. Nope, contrary to popular belief, it wasn't a racist thing. Bananas were actually a shot at Jim Cornette, who had been videotaped doing sexual acts with a banana with his girlfriend. Though it might not even have been a girlfriend. It could have been a dominatrix. And this was supposedly revealed while Cornette was in the middle of a divorce. And this video was passed around, and Cornette became the butt of everyone's joke. And that rumor has to still be going around because when he got into an argument with Austin Aries, it was brought up again. So let's go back to the thread that all this stuff came from. And I wanted to look at a certain user or two. There was a user named G. Gordon Liddy. Yeah, based off the famous political figure. And he was the one to post about Macho Man and Stephanie. And then he posted about Jacqueline and Kurt Angle. And that one was confirmed true. So if he was right about the first two, does his third post about Paul Heyman also ring true?
Oh, yeah, drop it. Barack loads.
But what about the man who created this thread? Well, I mean, it's just a random post on the internet. It can't have any kind of historical significance, right? Well, let's look at his username. Coach Tony K. Coach Tony K? Like Tony Khan? The guy who created AEW? Well, that's what some people believed. Tony Khan's age lines up with a guy who'd be online talking about wrestling from the mid-90s to the 2000s.
And I was really, by the time Jax came out, I was doing stuff on computers.
He even name-checked some of the ones that he used to go to.
I mean, The Observer wasn't even online yet. The Observer wouldn't be online for a long time at this point, yeah. So, like, there was RSPW, there was, like, the AOL Grandstand.
And he's on record as being somebody who was so obsessed with wrestling that just reading a wrestling magazine wouldn't do.
So I would usually get through all the wrestling magazines by the time my mom had bought the groceries, and learn about different companies that I hadn't really seen yet, because the only thing I'd seen was the WWF.
He's also on record as saying that he had internet wrestling friends.
My internet friends at that point, when I was 13, were probably some of my best friends, even though I'd never actually met him before or seen him in real life, because there was no video chats like this in 1996.
In fact, he was on the internet talking about wrestling as early as 1994 to 1995.
Got started using the internet in 94, 95, AOL, Prodigy, these different services. And it wasn't Google yet. Now you would use Google as like a verb, and you'd say I Googled something. But it was probably Lycos or Hotbot or something like that, Yahoo maybe. And just put in, is wrestling fake or is wrestling real or whatever.
He was so obsessed that it killed his academics.
What kind of student were you? Were you like an A+ student? Were you like a rocket scientist? What's the story with you?
To be honest, I was an A+ student until I got interested in wrestling on the internet in about 94, and then I wasn't as good of a student anymore, and I just did enough to get by, and I was watching obscene amounts of wrestling all night.
Yeah, I know what that's like.
And writing about it, and writing to my friends about it, and posting about it, and writing shows, and thinking about shows.
The guy fit all the stereotypes of somebody who'd be online posting about wrestling. He cared about the storylines.
Because I was 12 years old, and then I guess turned 13 right around the time you left. And yeah, like as to the internet wrestling fan, like Hulk Hogan was the enemy.
He used old school booking simulators like Rampage Wrestling for DOS.
But I started using Rampage Wrestling for DOS.
Yes.
And I started building databases where you just like put everybody in the database, and anybody you want to make, you can make. And I actually, this is kind of crazy. I haven't used it in several years because we're very busy. But as recently as like 2016, 17, I had a computer that still ran DOS, and I had made most of today's people, including like a lot of people who are in AEW.
He was tape trading.
And he wanted like the HTML breaks, so I put him in, the page breaks, and like he would send me some tape.
He went to ECW shows where you can see him in the crowd in a Jericho match.
You can actually see me on The Doctor's Inn, which was August 3rd of 1996. If you look in the crowd for like an orange shirt facing the hard cam.
He was reaching out to pro wrestlers and getting a response.
When I was, on AOL, like Brian Pillman, DDP, a lot of Mark Marrow, a lot of guys got on AOL in like the mid 90s and like interacted with fans, and were really cool about it. Like Brian Pillman's wife sent me the shirt off Brian's back from like a Nitro just for like just being nice to them on AOL as I was like 12 years old. Yeah.
And these are the fledgling days of the internet.
Which is something the Blue Meanie confirms.
Back in the 90s, when AOL was a thing, I used to always go into chats, and there was a chat that was always myself, Mike Johnson from PW Insider, Jeremiah, our mutual friend Dell, who works for Guns N' Roses, and Tony Khan was in that room too. And we were chatting and trading tapes back in the...
He even got access to wrestling writers.
I saw Randy Hales at the show in Memphis, and it was, I guess it would have been on AOL or Prodigy. I was using both. And I sent him in 1997 when he was in Memphis, but he was, he was friendly and talks to Jim Cornette, and they were like the developmental territory in a lot of ways. Like people would go down to Memphis to USWA and then come up to the WWF roster before, OVW or FCW. And so I sent Randy Hales like a script for a Raw in like 97.
And then we hit our smoking gun, not Bart Gunn or Billy Gunn. On an episode of the Steve Austin podcast, Tony Khan actually mentions that while he was a coach, he would visit wrestling forums.
And it was other sports too, and I was like doing this while I was coaching basketball, and then when my dad was looking at buying a football team, and I was doing so much research on football analytics, and then that became a huge part of my life. But I've still never stopped following wrestling at any point in my life completely. I've always had it there in my mind.
Okay, it is starting to heat up. Coach Tony K did create this thread, didn't he?
But like I knew Rob Naylor on the Death Valley.
Yeah.
It's too perfect of a fit, right? Even his own wrestlers started wondering, wait, are you actually Coach Tony K? Finally, on Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez, Tony Khan admits that, yes, that actually was him. He created the Wrestling Sleaze thread.
Probably the thing on Death Valley Driver that was the most famous thing was the Sleaze thread. I think.
A random post that started one of the biggest wrestling rumors of all time. But what some people don't realize is Tony K didn't just start this thread. That's right, he contributed a rumor of his own. Now don't go attacking Tony for his contribution. His contribution? Well, Johnny Ace may be in a gay couple with Tom Zink. Though this other rumor said that Tom Zink and Brian Pillman were trying to have a three-way with Marlena. It's all really confusing if you're trying to figure out what's real and what isn't real. I don't know. I don't get it.
If you don't got it, get it. If you don't get it, figure it out.
Hey, if you've made it this far, you can do me a favor and subscribe. Or watch this curated playlist with more stuff that I think you'd enjoy. And, I don't know, here's a related video. It's pretty close to what you just watched. So give the channel a chance.